sea of red, it's time for another Fireside Chat, the official podcast of Flames fans. It's go time.
Well, the Calgary Flames have had a good week, but still sit 30th in the league. We got some trades, we got some movement, we've got lots to talk about this week. As always, I'm Dan alongside Matt, and we brought in our Canucks correspondent, Kevin Olenick from the Shifts and Pucks podcast to talk Flames, talk about the Canucks. Hopefully we can all make fun of the Oilers and talk about how some of these trades have affected things. How are you doing, Kevin?
I'm good. I actually forgot that the Flames were in the National Hockey League for a little bit because the yelling noises out of Vancouver right now are very, very loud about the Quinn Hughes trade. Almost Don Maloney-esque in terms of anger right now, but we'll get into that.
Does this mean that Vancouver's going to start a rebuggle?
Yeah, well, they used the rebuggle word. They actually used the rebuggle word. It was actually in a press statement. So apparently, since Flames aren't filling their building, does Maloney get a royalty every time somebody uses that? Yeah, he can copyright that, eh?
I feel like we could make some money for Christmas and sell this on a T-shirt. Give me 20 minutes.
Yeah,
we'll put it on our website.
Christmas Center, which says that rebuggle on it. That'd be great.
And Matt, how are you doing?
Oh, good. It's always, a good week when you see both your main rivals make dumb trades.
For sure. And thankfully we didn't make a dumb trade to go along with it. That's the best part.
Yeah.
Well, let's look back at this week for the Flames. They played 3 games, starting with the dark mode blasty game against Buffalo. Now, I have to ask, if the Flames say that when they're wearing blasty, they're in dark mode, does that mean that red technically doesn't count as dark, so they could wear it on the road?
Well, apparently going into next year, that is actually a possibility where they are allowing both teams to wear their darker colors.
Matt has talked about this for years. It looks so much better. Just wear white if there's a conflict, or have something like a black alternate if there's a conflict.
Yeah, exactly. Like have an you take a team like Minnesota, for example. Like they could go with their North Stars jersey, their regular jersey, and then have like a red alternate just to make sure that like one of those colors will work,
or just carry white.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, the Flames wore black and ended up winning this game 7-4 over the Buffalo Sabres. Lots of goals scored on both sides in this one. We saw Dustin Wolf in net for this one, made 29 saves. And guys, I'll ask you this. We saw goals from Sharangovich, Anderson, Huberdeau, Kadri, Kuznetsov, Backlund, and Sharangovich again. Lots of goals scored. Even with the high scoring, was this a bad game?
Yes.
It was horrendous.
This looked, it was 2 terrible teams playing, and it looked like a terrible game. Like this was, it was fun to watch because there's lots of scoring, but this was terrible hockey.
Yeah, it was literally one of those where defense, what's that? And neither goalie really could stop a puck, and yeah, it was not good hockey.
You know, like when it was like if you ever played a late beer league game after like 10 o'clock and you've had a couple of before you went to the game and you kind of forgot that you had hockey. That kind of reminded me of that type of, that was kind of the hockey that we were type of playing. And like for Buffalo, I think they found like an emergency goalie to put in there. There's to like guide the net because they didn't stop any pucks. And yeah, like it was just, even the Flames, like the one, even late in the game, Mackenzie, when they were up by 3, Mackenzie Weegar, I don't know what he was doing in front of Dustin Wolf there. Like he was delivering a pizza to somebody that Wolf had to make a big save. Like that was just, it was one of the worst 7-4 hockey games I've ever seen.
Yeah, like usually when you see something like that, you're excited. You're excited to see all those goals. You're excited to see the good, high-scoring offense. It was just, like, this was terrible.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was literally one of those where, like, the coaches will be just fuming at, like, what were you thinking on the defensive side of it? Because, you're just letting guys up Main Street and, like, you don't do that.
Good to get the 2 points, but let's put this one in the vault and never look at it again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't know if this is, I don't know if this shows we often talk about how the Flames play down to their opponents. If this is Flames playing down to the terrible Buffalo Sabres, or if this is the Flames showing what they like. I'm trying to figure out where this comes from and why we got such a terrible game. I don't know. I'm not the coach.
Well, and to be fair, like the game that we played in Buffalo played basically the exact same, and Calgary, I think, scored 6 goals in that game as well. It's just that in that one we were actually playing defense and only allowed 2, I think. So, you know, that was the difference. Like Calgary's like, oh, we don't actually have to play defense. We can just outscore these losers, and there you go.
Kind of Edmonton's philosophy every game, isn't it?
Basically.
I do want to give some props to Jan Kuznetsov. Gets a goal and an assist here. He's got 2 goals and 3 assists now. I have a feeling that Kuznetsov is a Flame to stay for this year. Do you guys see him getting sent? I mean, he's got to clear waivers if he goes down, but do you see any scenario where Kuznetsov doesn't end up finishing the year with the Flames?
No. He is a top 4. He's done a really good job. And I think he's a top 4 next year. I think he's a regular next year as well. I think he's solidified himself, unless he does something incredibly wrong. He solidified himself in that lineup for the next couple of years. He's a staple.
How is Soloviev looking with the Avalanche? Anybody have an idea?
Not off the top of my head.
I don't. I mean,
I remember the rage about that waiver move.
Well, that's it. I mean, you know, we lost him for nothing, but I think Kuznetsov was the number 2 there, and I think, you know, obviously management knew what they were doing, but I'm glad we have Kuznetsov. I'm not saying Soloviev wouldn't be better or the same, but I think management knew which guy they were looking at as the forerunner.
Yeah, Soloviev has played 9 games with the Avalanche and is a -4, no points. And it has been sent down to the minors.
It's been sent down. Yeah. Wow, so that means you'd have to clear waivers. That would have given us the first right to take him back, and we didn't.
Yep.
I admit the move was a head scratcher to me during the year or during the training camp. Like, I was kind of surprised, but I think ultimately, because I didn't mind him. But I think ultimately Kuznetsov did kind of get ahead of Soloviev in terms of the depth chart, and clearly they made the right decision. I don't go to Twitter for Flames opinions. That's all I have to say.
I'm going to remind you that every day, Kevin.
Thank you.
This comes from the guy who wanted to get rid of Lomberg because Twitter said so.
No, I did not say get rid of Lomberg. By the way, I said that they were wrong on Twitter.
Okay, I'm just bugging you.
Yeah. One of the things that has been very notable since he's been recalled is that the Flames penalty kill has gone from I think it was dead last to I think 20th since he's been up, and the penalty kill rate has gone right through the roof, and not due to his efforts specifically. He's been a very stabilizing force on the defensive side.
I mean, talking about as Kevin was with training camp, right? And guys that didn't look good in training camp. Cooley did not have a good training camp, and I think everybody now says, wow, they made the right decision between him and Prosvetov to keep here. So I think we have to remember that in Conroy we trust.
I have a rant about that a little later.
All right, let's save it for later. Let's get through this week. The next game of the week is the Detroit Red Wings coming to town. Sometimes I still forget that these guys are now in the Eastern Conference, and we only have them here once a year, because I remember when they would come all the time being in the West. But they come for their only visit to Calgary, and DeBrincat has 2 goals and an assist as the Red Wings defeat the Flames 4-3 this past Wednesday night, the 10th. And in this one, we saw Devin Cooley in net for the Flames, 4-3 loss. Let's go to Matt for your thoughts first. Oh, I guess before we get there, Hunter Brzustewicz called up and put in the lineup. Jake Bean out of the lineup. So that's the I guess, the big lineup note there. Go ahead, Matt.
The thing that stood out to me is that how listless the Flames were until the Farabee penalty shot in the third period. And I didn't really feel that Calgary had any really good scoring chances until
they looked like the Flames from October up until that point, and then after that they looked like a completely different team.
Yeah, it was like last year's version
If you
of the
could have
Flames,
played-
and like if there had been 5 more minutes on the clock, they would have probably tied it and forced it.
If I was the
overtime.
coach, I would have said, like, where was this team all game?
Yeah.
Fun penalty shot, though.
Yeah,
always
like
good when you
anytime
score.
that you give, yeah, anytime you give up 2 goals in like the first like 3 minutes or whatever it was, like it's really hard to come back from that. And Cooley played well enough where the game was close. It's just the whole team was embarrassingly bad for the first like 45 minutes.
I have a question about the end of the game, but first of all, the first 10 minutes, I do agree with you. They were really listless, but I did think that they picked up their energy a little bit more in the second half of the first period and then early in the second. And then their energy dropped a little bit when Detroit made it 3-0 because the Flames were actually in control at that point. And then Detroit scored because I think the shots at that time were like 7-0 or something like that. And then Detroit scores DeBrincat and Kane, and then I think there was a little bit more of a sag, and then Detroit makes it 4-0, and then Calgary kind of turned it on in the third. But what was the issue? What was the issue at the end of the game? Because I think was there a time controversy? Because Calgary had it out with an official at the end of the game.
Yeah, I don't know what that was.
Yeah, neither do I. I was at the game and
I think he was just. I think there was just some emotions running high.
Because Huska was, I remember, like they showed on the broadcast, it was 1.9 seconds, and I got to confess, like if I watch at work, I don't have the sound on. It was 1.9 seconds left, and I know I saw Huska look at the point to the clock, and then after the final whistle, Kadri was just after was after it, and I do wonder if there was some sort of time controversy that we missed or something.
Yeah, I don't know. Nothing I've heard talked about, so I can't imagine it was much. They're usually pretty good about correcting time stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, that's not really subjective, right? That's pretty much, we know what the time should be. And I mean, there's been stuff like that in the past. They always fix it and move on.
Yeah.
But this was the first part of this game felt like an extension of that Buffalo game. It was not a good Calgary Flames team. And then, we get the penalty shot, the first one to be scored for the Flames since I think Backlund did it in 2019. And then very different team. And it's like, this is part of the reason the Flames are where they are, in my opinion, is we're not getting this consistency.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right?
Well,
I mean, they're showing they can do it when they want to do it. So go do it. But
yeah, I do want to focus on a couple of positives though, because I do think there was some in this game. I thought Hunter Brzustewicz looked really good.
Same here.
Yeah, I really did. I think
he was arguably like the Flames' best defenseman.
Yeah.
In that game, like there were so many moves where like he would deke out the rushing forward, in the offensive zone. His puck control was excellent.
Yeah. Yeah, I really liked that, and I really have been. I'll touch on the other guy, but I think Joel Farabee has played really well this year, and I thought he had a really good. I thought he was one of the Flames that was kind of leading the charge there in the comeback, especially with the penalty shot goal. But I thought he was pretty good as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think both Frost and Farabee, we brought them in as distressed assets from the Flyers, and I think that the Flames have done exactly what they should be doing in a rebuild, which is giving young guys a chance to succeed. I mean, this sort of reminds me of the Yari Hoodler move back in the day, bringing in Hoodler, who was, low down on a stacked Detroit depth chart, bringing him in and letting him flourish. And I think that this is exactly the type of move that you can make as the Flames. Say, let's bring these guys in, let's give them a chance. And I think they're both doing really well with the opportunities given.
Yeah.
Going back to Brzustewicz, I think he looks good. I think that Hanley is a good partner for him, being an older hand. I think it's going to be tough to send Brzustewicz back down, but I think he will go back down. I still think that he's probably better served as a number one pair guy in the AHL this year, but I guess we'll see. But yeah, I thought he's looked good in both games this week. And, I think this is another thing that, yes, we need to get superstars through trade. Yes, through the draft, but you need to make trades for smart players and smart, trades as well. And this is a guy the Flames brought in from Vancouver last year in a trade. And while he might not be your top 2 defenseman, this is how you build a team. And I think that was a great pickup by the Flames.
And on top of that, it's a very good audition, because the likelihood that Anderson stays is basically zero. So having him come in, play a little bit, even if he does get sent back down, the Flames can go, well, hey, at least we have somebody who can take Anderson's spot and minutes and be reasonably good based off of the 2 games that he played this week.
Yep.
And his play in the AHL this season, it's like, it would be different if he embarrassed himself, but, it's like, we're not actually screwed if we move on.
Yeah, I mean, I think we now know, looking at where he's at least a number 6 NHL defenseman. Give him some time and see if he can move up the lineup.
And I think it gives you it gives you the option that you don't have to force feed Zane Parekh in the NHL when he comes back from World Juniors. You have the option if you want to. I know that there's going to be some people that are not going to like this, but you have the option to send him back down to juniors for the second half of the year. Which
I think is actually the best idea. And realistically, even if they were to trade Anderson and put Parekh down, then, having Brzustewicz up, and guys like Bean, Pahal, and all of that. You could have Miramanov come up, be the 7-8 guy, and still have enough of an NHL defense without, having to worry about is Parekh getting enough time, and just let him go abuse the junior league for the rest of the season and rebuild the confidence heading into the offseason.
I mean, I've said this earlier in the season, and I've got some flack for it, but I'll say it again. I still think that the right move next year is probably Brzustewicz in the NHL, Parekh in the AHL.
I agree.
I think fans aren't going to like that, but hey, you want to see the guy? Buy a Wranglers ticket. I think we're seeing that, he's got some talent, and this is what fans have to remember about first-round picks, is they're not just always able to just slot into the NHL as a miracle cure. They need development time, and the 3 of us have had this discussion about my thoughts on Sam Bennett that way, too. I think the Flames need to season these assets.
Yeah.
And not just put them in because they're a name, they'll sell tickets. Guess what? They're going to sell tickets either way. Whether they sell Flames ticket or Wranglers ticket, you're going to buy a ticket to watch Zane Parekh.
That was the only thing that Don Maloney said that was correct.
Not that they're rebuggling?
Yeah, I mean, he talked about that with Gridden. You still need to marinate your youngsters. Yes. That was the only thing he said that was correct.
Yep, I would agree. And then...
Well, and you can even just, harken back, they rushed Sam Bennett up, and it took him until he was 28 to figure it out.
Yep.
In the NHL, and one's the Conn Smythe with the Panthers and all of that, but if they had been patient with him, he might have developed in that first line center that we needed, but instead they rushed him, and
I think Parekh is something special, but that doesn't mean he's ready to go today. And I think the Flames need, especially for rebuilding, you need that patience.
Yeah.
So that would be if I was the GM of the team, and I know that when they hired Conroy, they said they interviewed 13 people. I know my resume was number 14 on that table, but they didn't get to me. But that's what I would have done. And that's what I'd do, is say, send him back to, junior after the World Juniors, let him tear up that league, let him play some hockey, because he hasn't played a lot of hockey, and then put him in the American League to start next year.
I think it was because of time, though, Dan, to be fair. They didn't get to the 14th resume because it takes a long time to get through 13 resumes. So to be fair, yeah.
Well, and they probably read Conroy's 13 and said, wow, this is the right guy. So yeah. I'm sure mine is still on file for next time they're looking for somebody, which hopefully will be a while, because in Conroy we trust.
Oh, you're way to my rant.
And then the third game of the week was the Flames in LA. Hunter Brzustewicz again in for the Flames, as well as all the dads on this trip. The Flames start their 2-game dads trip. This always used to contain Phoenix in the loop, and we don't have Phoenix in the loop this year. So instead of going golfing, they're all going to an NFL game. But the Flames bring their dads, and the Flames beat the LA Kings in this one, a low-scoring affair. Quite an interesting overtime, though. The LA Kings get a goal, gets called back because of a distinct kicking motion, and then the Flames go out and Frost says, "Hold my beer, Dad," and goes out and scores the big goal to get the Flames the 2-1 win. Let's start with Matt. What are your thoughts on this one?
I thought that LA was terrible in this game. The Flames just had more energy.
Darcy Kemper kept them in this game.
Yeah, like this could have easily been a 5 or 6-1 game for the Flames. Credit to Kemper for getting the Kings a point, because he was basically the only LA player that showed up in this one. And honestly, like, if LA makes the playoffs, like, they're going to be an easy first round exit. Like, I don't see anything from that team that would scare me in the playoffs.
I think they're overrated this year.
Oh, for sure.
Kevin, what are your thoughts?
Oh, I didn't have the Kings in the playoffs this year anyway. I think it's probably going to be still. I think we're going 3 Pacific and 2 and 5 Central, and I think the California team is probably Anaheim. First of all, can we like off ice? I love the parents' trips. I think this is great to just see the characters of the parents. I think it just adds a bit of energy. So I enjoy that. It was Morgan Frost's dad that did the starting lineup, by the way, for the Flames.
And for those that don't know, he's a former, he was the in-arena announcer. He was essentially Beasley in Toronto, and then he was also a play-by-play guy.
Yeah. So, and I thought the look at the end when they panned to him when Frost scored, like he was kind of shocked that his son scored. It was like all the other dads are cheering, and he's kind of staring into space. I thought that was so funny. I just loved it. I thought this was one of the Flames' better games of the year. They, especially in the second period, they really poured it on. There's some concerns. There's a big concern coming out of this game with an injury, but this was I really liked Morgan Frost. He's really developing. Like he starts to play, he ends the game-winning goal. I would argue, is it fair to say he's almost the most improved Flame this year? Like in terms of just where he came from last year, starting in Philly, and now I'm really comfortable with him next year as a top 2 center with this team, still in a rebuilding.
If we want to talk most improved, I think I'd give that to a guy I thought looked fantastic in this game, Adam Klapka, who started in the American League last year.
Yeah. The fight.
Yeah. I feel that Frost's defensive game has actually improved quite steadily. And while his offensive numbers aren't anything remarkable, I'm feeling that he's slowly developing into a potential replacement for Michael Backlund, being that excellent two-way center, and Frost can win a lot of face-offs, and just his overall game, I feel, has taken a step forward this year. Not necessarily on the offensive side of things, which he's still playing decently, but his defensive game, I have noticed, has gone right through the roof.
I think both him and Farabee are looking good, really good.
Yeah.
And like I said earlier, right? I mean, when you can bring in the distressed asset and get this kind of production out of them, good for Conroy.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And I also think Dustin Wolf looked good, although he didn't have a lot of opportunities. I thought Dustin Wolf played really well too.
Yeah, I agree.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it was very good asset management by Conroy, flipping Mangiapane for a second-round pick, then using our second-round pick and some basically depth players to get 2 assets that are both looking excellent.
Jacob Peltier now in the American Hockey League.
And Kuzmenko, who's ghosted the Kings just like he did every other team in the second year.
Did he even play last night?
Yes, I think so.
Oh, I did not see him.
Let me check the official lineup. No, he was not on the lineup.
Okay, he was a healthy scratch then. Yeah, because he's not hurt.
Well, at least not physically.
Yeah.
He was a healthy scratch. Philip Deneau, Jacob Moverare, and Andrei Kuzmenko, healthy scratches for the Kings.
Well, Deneau was sick.
Okay, well, scratches for the Kings. So
yeah.
I like the Flames game in this one. I think this was, this was more interesting at 1-1 after 60 than the high-scoring game in Buffalo by 10 times.
Sure.
Like this was, people often think that low-scoring games are not exciting. This was a great hockey game to watch.
Yeah, it was fun to watch.
Yeah, and honestly, like this basically felt like after the Farabee penalty shot, like it was just a continuation of that level of effort through the entire Kings game, and like it is actually kind of remarkable that the Flames didn't win this in regulation, and if not for a stellar goaltending performance by Kemper, it easily would have been higher
For sure.
than.
With that, the Calgary Flames have now played 33 games this season, 13 wins, 16 losses, 4 overtime losses for a total of 30 points. And as much as we've seen some improvement, the team is still 30th in the league with 30 points. The teams below them, Nashville and Vancouver, they're tied with Buffalo and Seattle at 30. We have Winnipeg and the Blues right above them at 31. And then Columbus and Chicago and Ottawa 32. So we're I guess starting to see them climb, but still near the bottom. It's interesting how tight things are in the wild card, though, because 35 is the last wild card team for points.
Yeah, and you look at like the Flames' last 13 games; they're 8-4-1, which that's like extremely impressive. And when they started that, they were, I think, 8 points out of a wild card spot, and now they're 5 points out of a wild card spot, and that's with like their best performances to date, over a 13 game stretch. And it's like, okay, yeah, you made progress of 3 points, and it's like you basically in order to catch up, like you're basically gonna have to keep doing that till at least the trade deadline. Just to get up to, being in the playoffs, and, like the likelihood of that is...
The Flames are taking one stride forward and 4 strides backwards every week.
Yeah, but at least, well, I mean, we're having this conversation. I mean, ultimately, I want to be careful how I say this. It's probably, I'm not pro-tank, but it's probably best... We'll get into this, that the Flames end up in the bottom 5 somehow anyway. But I think that I think the best thing about this is we're seeing the younger players starting to develop. We've talked about Kuznetsov. We are now talking about Brzustewicz. You're getting younger players.
Klapka.
Klapka. You're starting to see that. So that's the good thing that comes out of this.
Even Frost and Farabee I'd put in that group.
Yeah.
Well, talking about young players, the Calgary Flames did not have their captain for the third period in LA. Michael Backlund did not come out for the third period. They were one man short. We don't know what the injury is. The Flames haven't said anything, but that leaves them a hole at center. If Backlund is out, they would have Frost, Kadri, and Beecher as their centers. I'll go to each of you, and I'll start with Kevin. Kevin, if Backlund's going to be out for any length of time, what would you do to fill that roster spot and that hole down the middle?
I think this might be the time to give Connor Zary a look at center and see if you can get either Gridden or Cairns up in the top 9. I don't think John Beecher. I've actually been pretty impressed with what John Beecher has provided as a 4th line center, but I don't believe that he's a 3rd line center. So this is the time to do let's see where Connor Zary is at, and let's give a look at either Gridden or Cairns in the top 6.
What about you, Matt?
I agree.
Yeah.
How would you say, if it was anybody else, you would probably just call up somebody, but it being Backlund, I think having some similarity on that line, because at least Zary would be playing with Coleman. It's gonna be a who knows how long situation. So like it depends. Like if Backlund's out for a month, you might do something different, but if it's just a short-term thing, then we'll see.
Because I don't think you want to bring up William Stromgren in this situation, probably being a bottom 6 forward. You want him in a top 6 role. And I think, let's see where Connor Zary is at, and let's see where Gridden or Cairns is at. That's what I would do.
Yeah, I mean, if we look at the guys that are playing center for the Wranglers, we have Cairns, Morton, Kirkland, and King are generally kind of their men down the middle. I know a lot of people want to see Gridden there. I still think that I would keep Gridden right now in the American League to tear it up. He's doing really well right now.
Yeah, I'm
also not a fan of Zari down the middle.
Yeah, in what I would recommend is giving Stromgren a look at the NHL level. Like, we haven't actually seen him up here, and he's been rather effective. And the thought, if he does turn into an NHL player, is to be like your third line winger. So the odds are that he would come up and play as that, checking line type guy, and align with Coleman, Zari, and Stromgren. Would be an effective checking unit. So it might be an interesting time to actually let him come up and see what he has at the NHL level.
I think if it's me, I'm looking to slot a centerman in there. So I would either do Cairns or Morton. We've seen some good things from Morton already, and I think getting another look with Coleman and Zari might also be good for his development.
I guess the reason I just think it's, I mean, they sent Rory Cairns down because they needed to find room for Sharangovich and Zari to be consistent members of this lineup. And I feel like Connor Zary still has a little bit to prove. And that's why I know that you don't like it, Dan, it may not work, but does it matter if it doesn't work? Like, in terms of results, does it matter? Or
Not really, but if you're trying to get him going, is putting him at center where I think he's going to struggle more the best way to get him going?
Has he looked, how do you think he's looked the last little while anyway?
For
a lot better than the early part of the season, but still not quite as good as he was like before the injuries last year.
Fair, okay.
I think he's fine for a third line, player on a rebuggling team. Like, he's serviceable, I guess. But yeah, I think my first look, if I was the GM, would be to call up Cairns and do Zari, Cairns, Coleman as a line and see what you've got at him. I mean, maybe it turns into nothing and you switch him out for Stromgren, but he seems to be the guy the Flames like the best and that has got the most looks. So I think you've got to give him a look. I mean, I don't know that any of us thought Kuznetsov would last either.
No, I know, but I think that Cairns deserves the look. I think he's played well enough. He had a really good camp. He deserves an opportunity.
Yeah, I think I'd put him in there for a couple games at least. I mean, if you run him till Christmas, let's say, and just see what you've got.
Yeah.
But it does show here and we've talked about this before, the lack of centers in this Flames organization, right? I mean, I think Kirkland is the guy a lot of people would go to. He looked okay. John Beecher's taken that spot. I don't think either of them are three C's. They don't have a lot of options even on the farm for wingers.
No, that's
for centers.
Why I was very glad when they actually acquired Beecher off of waivers, because, hey, this is a legitimately NHL body-sized player that can play center, and is enough of a fast skater that, hey, we have an actual serviceable option to be the fourth-line center for the next while.
And he's done well. I mean, for a fourth-line center, I think Beecher's filled in just fine.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Kevin, you were talking about Zari and how he's looked. I know a guy that Matt and I have talked about in the past was Sharangovich and how he didn't look good at the beginning of the season. I mean, they even took him out of the lineup, right? They scratched him to get him going. And I don't know about you guys. I'll start with Matt here, but I think Sharangovich has really turned his game around. He's looking like the Sharangovich we expect him to be when he signed that deal. How do you feel about him, Matt?
Honestly, if he keeps this up, he'll probably end up with like 25 goals. And like, he is a very good scorer when he's, engaged properly. And that was the entire problem for the first month and a bit of the season, is that he just did not look like he cared, which, it happens. But it's been good to see him turning the corner a bit.
I'd rather be playing with Lego than playing hockey, I guess. Kevin, how do you feel about him?
Yeah, again, he's looked better. 11 points in 29 games, but he's still frustrating to me because he kind of reminds me a little bit of Christian Huselius back in the day. A guy with a lot of talent, but just doesn't consistently put it through. And I think it frustrates me a little bit. Um, maybe going forward in the offseason, I wonder if this is a guy that you could use as a trade. It might be tough,
I think
but
that deal's going to be tough
could
to
sell
move.
sell the teams on a 25 goal scorer like Igor Sharangovich and hide the fact that he's an inconsistent player.
I think that deal's going to be tough to move.
I do too because of the salary, but I don't know. I'm not overly impressed with Sharangovich, but I think he's playing better. But I also think you got to give some credit to Calgary getting him going too.
I think if I'm a team wanting a 25 goal scorer, I could find a better, cheaper.
Probably.
But yeah, I think, I mean, again, this team, as we've talked about, probably should be in the bottom five. You don't necessarily need him to go on a tear, but I think he's looking more like a guy you want in your lineup. And even if we bring some of these young players in that we're talking about, you need veterans around them. And I think Sharangovich is showing, you know what? He can be that serviceable veteran. One thing I've noticed about him this week that I thought maybe speaks to his mental state. One of his early goals this year, he scored and he kind of looked up like, oh my gosh, it finally happened. And now he's scoring and he's just giving the fist bumps. And he looks like he's more confident just playing the game. And I don't know if that's a mental thing. I don't know if that's a health thing. We don't know what might be going on with him, but he just looks like he finally feels good out there.
Yep, I do see that. I just want more consistency. That's all.
And Kevin, you said you had some rant that we were talking about Conroy, and you said we'd want to hear this. So what have you got? What do you want to unload on us?
Well, I think there's been a lot of. I would have wanted to save this when we get into Quinn Hughes, but I'll start here. Look, I know that there's a lot of Flames fans that seem to be unimpressed with Craig Conroy, but you kind of look at how Craig Conroy has done, basically starting around the time, actually a little bit, but after Patrick Allvin in Vancouver, and you kind of look at the what he's done with this team in terms of asset management, as Matt said. As an example, trading Mangiapane for a second, able to move another second to get yourself Frost and Farabee. The assets that came from the Elias Lindholm trade, even getting Igor Sharangovich and Sunayev in the Toffoli trade, and the jersey doesn't even have Tyler Toffoli. Jacob Markstrom is yelling at the media in New Jersey, and Kevin Paul is playing solid minutes there. And then you got another first-round pick in Cole Reshny. If you're Calgary and you kind of look at this in the comparison to what Patrick Allvin has done in Vancouver, this is a night and day situation. Like it's, to me, I think it's fair to say, Dan, and Conroy we trust, and especially after that interview, which became his interview, which was a night and day interview from Don Maloney in terms of just how he handled the media. I think the Flames fans should feel really good that this team is in Conroy's hands, and I wonder at some point if he becomes the president of hockey operations, if they bring him all the way to the top and he starts running. I think that I see that as an eventuality, but
And that's a long way away.
Is it?
I think Conroy has a vision. I think he said a 5-year vision or something when he came in. I think they want him to kind of see this through before they promote him.
Yeah, sure. But I don't know. I think Flames fans should feel pretty comfortable with having Craig Conroy driving the ship right now.
Yeah, it's a slow build for sure. I mean, we didn't expect Conroy to come in and, make a big splash in free agency. I think he's doing exactly what he needs to do, putting the bricks in one by one and building this team the way it needs to be. And I think that a lot of these deals, I mean, one thing the fans discount when they look at just the on paper, there was a lot of people who didn't want to be here. And he moved them all and got value for them all. Did he bring back an NHLer for them all? No. But I think he's put the pieces in place to build this team when they're in the new building and have some great success. I think he's doing all the right things. I can't think of a bad Conroy move that he's made when we look at it, Not for now, but kind of, the totality of it. Matt, can you?
No, and it's one of those things that, like when you're rebuilding, like you basically need to get about 20 prime assets through the rebuild, and like basically like top 3 round picks that look actually good in your system in order to get enough of a base to turn things around. And like over the last 3 years, like the Flames have had 15 draft picks in the top 3 rounds, and there's not really been too many in the stinker camp of any of those draft picks, and not everybody's going to develop, but even if you only get half of those guys turning into legit NHLers, like that's literally half of your team. And so like with getting as many assets and like the potentiality of getting another possibly 6 or 7 assets from moving Anderson, Kadri, and Coleman, like you're basically starting to create a massive pile of those prime assets and hopes that you hit on a number of them and can turn the team around quickly instead of needing to spend years and years in the desert.
I think if we all agree you're not going to trade your way into a franchise, let's say a franchise player or a franchise center for this team, I think Conroy is doing exactly what he needs to do to build those complementary pieces for when that pick does arrive.
Yep. Yeah. You look back here at what the last 4 drafts for the Canucks. I'm just looking back, like they didn't have a 2024 first or a second.
Well, we had one of those.
Yeah, that's right. And then they 2023, they gave away their 3rd round pick to us as well at Hunter Brzustewicz.
Yeah, and I mean Gridden is Vancouver's pick.
Yep. And you only have, I mean, Kudrayev is coming, but the Flames just seem to have a deeper draft prospect cupboard. Like, I mean, Conroy talked about Ethan Whitenbach. He's getting some play as a 5th round pick coming up here too. So again, like just, and even Eric Jameson was a 6th round pick that was also part of that Elias Lindholm trade. I mean, a lot of people are talking high about him as well. So, yeah, there's a lot to like. There's a lot to like in what Conroy has done. That's just my whole point. I feel like you got to look at the situation. Like for me, with the 2 teams, I feel more comfortable with what Conroy is doing than Patrick Allvin is doing in Vancouver.
If we look back at previous Flames management, I think that while we all liked some of the things Tree did, there was really no plan. Tree's plan was win this year, and then when it didn't work, it'd be win this year again. And I feel like Conroy has a plan. We haven't seen it all unfold, but and Kevin, correct me if I'm wrong, but if we're comparing to the Canucks, I feel like the Canucks have changed their plan. They were a rebuilding team that I think had some success. I think they pushed on that and said, okay, we're having success. Let's try to go for a run. That didn't work. And now they're almost having to rebuild again. Almost the Edmonton model.
Yeah, I don't think that the Canucks media has talked enough about how bad that Elias Lindholm trade has turned out for the Canucks. That might be one of, I would argue that is probably the worst trade in Vancouver in the Rutherford Allvin area. I mean, you got 26 games for him. You got 13 playoff games. You ended up losing a 1st round pick, which you probably could have used in a trade. You lose Hunter Brzustewicz, who probably wasn't going to play in Vancouver, but you probably could have used him in another trade to get a 2nd line center. And you lost Kuzmenko. That wasn't a significant loss, but the Flames were able to move Kuzmenko to get themselves Frost and Farabee. And you got a couple of late round picks that are kind of turning into good players here too. And you ended up not keeping Elias Lindholm. And then all of a sudden you had the Pettersson Miller blow up of last early this year. And then you ended up having to trade Miller, and you ended up without this. Let's think about this, guys.
So it sounds like it's the Flames that fleeced the Canucks and started this rebuild.
The Canucks had Pettersson, Miller, Horvat, and Lindholm on their center ice. And they are left with Pettersson. And they have that David Camp, former Toronto Maple Leaf number 5 center, as playing as their number 1 center because Pettersson has been hurt.
Yep.
Yeah. Fun time.
And, I think, again, talking about Conroy, right? Good for him for seeing that, Lindholm was not coming back. And he made that deal, and he made, I think we can all say, the right deal in doing that to get the asset he needed. And, is it his problem that Vancouver screwed that up? No, he's taking advantage of the market. Good for him. He should be. But, yeah, I mean, it's Vancouver arguably should not have made that deal. They did. Calgary benefited. But, yeah, I mean, Lindholm.
Well, how would you say
Lindholm's another story. Where's he playing in the Boston lineup?
Boston. He's their second line center.
Yeah, he's playing okay.
It's basically their version of the Hamonic trade.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, and I think every GM's entitled to, one bad deal.
Yep.
And
how would you say it at the time it made perfect sense because like Vancouver looked like they had like the foundation of being an elite team, and much like how like the Flames fell apart after Gaudreau and Tkachuk left, that like you can only do what you can with the information on hand, and like nobody anticipated like the Miller Pettersson blow up or like any of the fallout, or
Dakota Joshua ended up with cancer. Thatcher Demko was not healthy. There were so many things that went wrong too.
Yeah, like you can only do so much, and basically everything that could have went wrong for Vancouver after losing to Edmonton in Game 7 did, and much like us losing to Edmonton, it kind of nuked our team as well. And the good thing is that the Canucks are actually committing to a rebuild instead of whatever the hell Don Maloney said.
And I think that the Canucks situation is a good lesson for the Flames and anyone in that position of just because you're looking like you're moving up doesn't mean you want to necessarily make the big moves right away. There's a process. And I think if Vancouver would have waited a year to make some of those big moves, they'd be in a very different situation.
Yeah, probably.
You don't want to say, oh, we're having a little bit of success. Let's quickly, go out and buy. And
well, yeah, and even like the Miller trade and then subsequently flipping that first round pick for Pettersson was also, like if they were just, being intellectually honest at the time and saying, hey, we're just going to rebuild instead of trying to cobble together a team that's quasi-competitive, much like the getting of Huberdeau and Weegar in that trade. Like Vancouver would have been a lot better off now than they are today. But, that, pressure to stay competitive is basically what's kept Canadian teams from winning the Stanley Cup for 32 years now.
I just feel like Alvin and the Canucks have run on panic, and the Flames are kind of, I'm not saying it's perfect in any way, shape, or form, but there seems to be a little bit more of a precision in how the Flames are operating. I don't know if that makes any sense.
There is now. I think, again, it was different in the Treliving era.
Yeah, like with the Conroy era. Like you kind of look at it again, like here's another example in Vancouver. Lucas Reichel was a player that they acquired for a 4th round pick, and they tossed him on waivers, and they're going to basically release him. And that, like you're wasting a 4th round pick on a guy that you took a gamble on, and you're moving on from him. And there was so much of that even in the 2024 offseason. They bring in Vincent Desharnais. They have to move on from him. They bring in Daniel Sprong. They have to move on from him. They brought in a couple of other guys, and they had to move on from them. It's just waste of asset management, in my opinion, waste of salary. It just feels like a bit of a panic in a lot of ways.
Yeah, I agree. And while we're talking about this, let's jump into the Vancouver trade that was made. Obviously, Quinn Hughes traded away from the Canucks, and this is kind of where I think one of the reasons we wanted to get Kevin on, because he covers the Canucks as well. But Quinn Hughes traded to the Minnesota Wild for Marco Rossi, Liam Ogren, and Zeev Buyum, and a first-round pick in 2026, which I would say probably the best defenseman Vancouver's ever drafted, maybe the best player Vancouver's ever drafted, now gone, starting that rebuild. The question I'll ask, and I'll start with Matt here. Well, I'll give my thoughts and I'll go to Matt. I have a feeling that now that Quinn Hughes is off the board, that Conroy is going to have more interest in Rasmus Andersson. Quinn Hughes, much younger defenseman than Andersson. Nobody wants to bring in a 30-year-old or a guy pushing 30 if you can get a guy pushing 26. I think probably a number of teams had Quinn Hughes as their number one choice. Now that he's gone, I have to imagine that the talk around Andersson is going to get to be much, I would say maybe more serious. I think all the teams that didn't get Hughes are probably saying, okay, Raz is number 2. I don't know who your number 3 would be. Like, I think it was Hughes, Andersson. Who knows? Matt, what do you think about that?
Yeah, and, how would you say? Vancouver was kind of over a barrel because Hughes blatantly did not want to be there. And you could see just from body language that, like, his give a blank meter was at 0. And much like when the Flames traded Zadorov, you just kind of have to take the best available offer and let it rip. And, to be fair, it's not the best return but for the situation, Vancouver did as good as they could have under the circumstances. And Buyum is probably going to end up being about 70% of what Hughes was, which, he will likely be a first pairing defenseman for them for a long time. Rossi is a second line center, and, Ogren has potential. He hasn't really translated into the NHL, but he, much like Frost and Farabee, he will be getting plenty of ice time to try and turn that talent into like a legit top 6 player. So, basically, Vancouver had no real choice in the matter. It's either, have this massive distraction and him leave for nothing or get a significant return. Is it fair value? No. Probably the overall return's probably about 70% of the value of Hughes, but when you're over a barrel, you kind of have to just say, well, this is the best that we could have done under the circumstances. And I
think some fans thought this is the kind of return that Andersson would get. I think we now know. I mean, let's be honest, Andersson's probably a big step down from Hughes if you're making a
Andersson, I feel that he probably would get, say, Ogren and a first, as the upper end of his return. Getting William would be out of reach for Andersson, but it was a good return, just not a fair and even return for Vancouver, but under the circumstances, you're basically damned if you do, damned if you don't. So better to pull the bandage off.
Kevin, what do you think this means for the Andersson trade market?
Yeah, well, just what I do want to talk about the trade in and of itself, because we did talk about, Sean and I talked about it on Shifts and Pucks. We do have the podcast out recapping the trade. It's win-win for both teams, I think. And I mean, you look at that division, the Central Division. If you have Cale Makar, Miro Heiskanen, Quinn Hughes is in that. Quinn Hughes, there's an argument Quinn Hughes is the best defenseman in the NHL. I'll hear it. So I can understand why Minnesota takes the risk to doing this, and I admire that. And I think we talked about this. I think everyone was surprised about Minnesota, but maybe we shouldn't have been, because Guerin and Rutherford have a relationship. They work together in Pittsburgh, and we've totally missed that part of it. The return here, I mean, the key is going to be BM and whatever happens with that first round pick. And I know that there's going to be some people that are going to find this unpopular, and Flames Flames fans, but I think BM is going to turn out to be the best defenseman that was picked in that 2024 list, which includes.
I actually agree on that.
Yeah, I think so for Vancouver, that's a great pickup in that sense. And look, Quinn Hughes. I mean, there's a bunch of discussion, and the investigation is out in Vancouver when when Quinn Hughes asked out, and that's a whole other topic that we'll save. But yeah, I think the Flames are the winners in this because Rasmus Andersson does become the belle of the ball, and I think Conroy's kind of fortunate in a sense that they didn't trade Rasmus Andersson in the offseason because now you've got teams like Dallas, you've got a team like Colorado, you've got a team like Winnipeg. Even maybe you wonder about Utah can kind of call and say, look, we've got some assets to offer you for Rasmus Andersson. And now you got a bidding war for the best defenseman that will be available in the trade deadline.
Do you feel, Kevin, that Andersson's worth more now than he would have been in the offseason?
Yeah, actually, I do. Well, and you have to look at, likely Dallas is going to be the front runner to get Andersson, and because the likelihood that Dallas catches Colorado is not high. It's possible, but it's not high. So, they're looking at, okay, now we have to play Minnesota in the first round, and, they're one significant injury away from, basically throwing out a really good season in the toilet just because the Wild went out and got Quinn Hughes. And, they're going to be desperate to load up, and especially with them having the nearly $10 million in saved cap space with Seguin being out, all of a sudden the two affordable contracts in Coleman and Anderson all of a sudden look even more attractive to them. And it seems like it's a natural fit between the two teams. It's just parsing out which assets and how much.
And Andersson is playing better now than he did last year, which is
this is probably the best that Andersson's played. Especially since his car accident in Detroit. He hasn't really looked the same since then until this season, and he's really stepped up his game.
We talked about this before we hit record today. If you're a team looking for defensive help, let's say Dallas, and maybe you're in on the Quinn Hughes trade and you didn't get Hughes. Now you're saying, okay, who's number two? Okay, Andersson's available. Let's go after Andersson. Crap, if we don't get Andersson, who's number three? I wonder if you're going to have a bidding war for Andersson you might not have had in the offseason, because there is, in my mind, there is no number three, and I wonder if the Flames can play that to their advantage to get a little bit better return. Guys, who's number three?
Yeah, the only player that would even be in that same conversation is Roman Josi if Nashville decided to completely nuke their team.
And I think Josi at 35 is definitely a rental. You might get an extension out of Raz.
Yeah, the other guy that I'm wondering about at some point here is Rasmus Dahlin. You go back to that game on Monday. We were talking about this off air. That guy looks incredibly frustrated to me.
Everybody on that team's frustrated.
Oh God, that body language on that Buffalo Sabres team. If you want to talk about body language, oh my gosh, that is a just body language disaster. But I wonder if someone. We don't know the situation with Kevin Adams, but there are reports he's apparently going to be out very closely. So you got, I wonder about that. I wonder if someone is going to go after Rasmus Dahlin. That's the only other guy that I could see. But Rasmus Andersson at this point in time is the belle of the ball.
Yeah, I don't know who your obvious number three is there. And because of that, I think there's going to be a lot more interest in Raz because things fall off after that. I mean, there's a lot of defensemen available, but that defenseman that's going to move the needle for you in to get you to the postseason or in the postseason, I don't see it. So I think, I don't know if you guys agree, but it was Hughes number one. Everyone probably wanted Hughes if they needed a defenseman. Now that you're not getting them, all right, let's call Conroy. And I can see teams saying, all right, what's it going to take to get this done? Because this is our only option.
And I'm no insider when I say this, but I know Friedman said that Hughes said at American Thanksgiving he wanted out. I have to think that there was some off-season conversation about Quinn Hughes that nobody really talked about.
Yeah, I would not be shocked.
Like it just, yeah, I have to think that that was part of the reason Rasmus wasn't traded in the offseason. And I think apparently Rasmus turned down a couple of offers because he wanted to bet on himself, and good for him. He's proven that to be right for him. And I know there was a lot of Flames pundits that were angry, but it turned out to be right. Patience is a virtue, folks.
Yeah, it's definitely a virtue. And I also think that the fact that this deal gets done, the Quinn Hughes deal, so early in the season is going to be good for the Flames as well, because we've seen in the past when a big player hasn't moved to the deadline and it slows down the whole market and it kind of clogs everything else up. And I'm not saying Anderson gets moved, in the next week. I don't think that's necessarily going to happen, but I think it gives a lot of time now for the Flames to find the right deal. And it's not like, oh crap, we got 40 minutes here until the deadline. Hughes has moved. Now we got to figure this out. I think.
Well, and that's part of what caused that 1 year when Camilleri wasn't dealt by the Flames, because there were a couple of bigger names that weren't traded right up until, like an hour or so before the deadline, and nobody looped around to Calgary to say, hey, we'll give you X. Like the best offer was a 3rd round pick, which that's why Burke said, nah, we're good.
Yeah.
So I think that's a great thing for the Flames, just to have that time. And also, I mean, you were mentioning some teams, Kevin, you thought might be in on this. I could also see another team comes out of nowhere, has a big injury and goes, crap, we lost our number one guy. We got to do something quick. Let's just...
Well, look at Tampa Bay with Victor Hedman. Yeah. He's probably out until February.
Exactly. Let's just pay the nice man in Calgary what he wants and, secure something quickly.
Yeah, don't forget Vegas. They always find a way to get themselves out there. And Anderson and Hanifin played together. I think they'll be in it on this. And yeah, I think there'll be a few teams. I think there'll be a big bidding more. And you can wait till after the Olympics because you have time for the trade deadline, right? So
yes and no. I mean, we say you can wait till after the Olympics, but you never know. What if he gets hurt at the Olympics?
That's true.
But
what if he shines at the Olympics?
What's that?
What if he shines at the Olympics?
Yeah, I don't really think that'll impact the return.
I don't think so either.
Too much.
I think a lot of teams look at this as an extra thing outside of the regular NHLs. You've seen what he is as an NHL player. You have enough of a book on him. I don't think you pay extra just because he looked good in a tournament that's not even on NHL-size ice.
Yeah, and honestly, I think that if the Olympics weren't happening this year, that Quinn Hughes probably is a Canuck for another month.
Oh man, poor him.
I feel bad for all these guys getting traded right before Christmas.
Yeah.
But let's talk a little bit more about that. Speaking of Christmas, there was some Christmas gifts here. The Kulak family and the Skinner family got a great Christmas gift. They got to leave Edmonton. They're on their way out of Edmonton, on their way to Pittsburgh, and we must have...
Yeah, I remember you giving condolences to the Kulak family when he got dealt to Edmonton and him liking the post.
He did, yeah.
So,
that was, for those that don't know, the Fireside Chat account gave condolences to the Kulak family when he moved to Edmonton, and he liked the post. So we weren't sure if that was a subtle nod at, oh crap, I don't want to do this, but he's lasted there longer than I thought, and... Now we're giving condolences to the Jari family and the Poulin family, who must be on the naughty list this year because they've got to now live in Edmonton.
Well, Jari apparently wants to live in Edmonton. He's from Edmonton. He has a home outside of it.
Is that all he can, has he been hit on the head too many times to want? He's from Surrey. He played junior in Edmonton.
Yeah, apparently he loved it.
He has a home outside of Edmonton. I think that's what most of the world wants to say. I have a home outside of Edmonton.
I guess
far outside.
We all have homes outside of Edmonton.
He has a home in Leduc or something. He doesn't even want to live in the city. But anyway, we've talked about Hughes. I don't know if there's anything else to talk about there, but the Edmonton move with Jari, we'll only bring this up because it is interdivision. To me, this is a lateral move. I don't know that Jari is greater than Skinner, but I think they had to do something there. I'm kind of surprised they ran Skinner back, honestly, in their net.
Well, one thing that I thought was really funny yesterday is that Skinner-itis infected the Penguins. They were up 5-1, like 10 minutes left in the game, and they lost.
Yeah, it was Seeloff's in goal, though, yeah.
I mean, Skinner can be good when he's good, he's good. And I'm hoping he goes on a tear for the Penguins. Like, now that he's out of here, let's just have him go, starting goalie quality.
Yeah. Honestly, I would not be surprised if Skinner was better than Jari the rest of the year.
Yeah, I mean, Jari, I think, is good when he has been good, but he was also on waivers, last year, the year before? Like, he's horribly inconsistent.
There's no team with more pressure to win the Stanley Cup than the Edmonton Oilers right now. There's no goalie with more pressure to get that done than Tristan Jarry right now. I think this is actually a horrendous trade for Edmonton, to be honest with you. I understand you end up getting Spencer Stastny for a third-round pick, but your blue line, how are you trading? Like, again, Edmonton does not understand that they need defensemen, because for some ungodly reason, you piled on another bottom six forward in Samuel Poulin when you have a bunch of bottom six forwards going on there. And I think they're going to miss Brett Kulak, to be honest with you. I think he was probably a key member of that team in a lot of ways. And
Kulak always looked better in the playoffs.
Yeah, he was solid. Actually,
the part of this trade that I don't get is Nashville trading Stastny to Edmonton for a third-round pick. Like, 25-year-old defenseman that's playing reasonably well in the NHL, and you just ship him off for a third. It's like, if you're wanting to blow your team up a bit and get some assets.
Honestly, if I was the Oilers, I probably would not have given up the asset, and I would have just taken Dumba off waivers.
But you need a left side defenseman. You're fine on the right. You've got Boothgart,
and the cap doesn't work.
Yeah, it doesn't really work. And
I don't think Dumba's great, but I don't think Dumba's any worse than what they've got.
Yeah, I wouldn't have done it if I was Edmonton.
This feels like a deal where there was pressure to make a deal, so they made a deal.
How would you say, to harken back earlier, this feels much like the Lindholm trade from Vancouver's point of view, just the Edmonton version of it. Like, we need a goalie, let's get whoever is available, and the only guy that was available was Jari, and, desperation.
Yeah,
and
not just the guy who's available, the guy who's available within our
be...
criteria. I mean, Edmonton couldn't take money, they couldn't do a lot of things.
Yeah, and I feel that this is going to be especially if it doesn't work out, like the beginning of the end of the Oilers. Because if they fail, you could easily see McDavid say adios in the offseason. I'm sure it's tough because I think that the Oilers are kind of banking on that the cap going up will help them to buy some depth guys next year, but they're not in a good spot.
I mean, they said coming into the season they needed to address goaltending, and they did nothing in the free agent market. I mean, you could have had Dan Vladar for not giving up an asset, who I think would be a better goaltender.
Yeah, there is a number, again, there's been some sweet submissions mentioning the amount of misses that the Oilers have had on terms of their goaltending situation. Vladar, the Wallstead pick, there's been some goalies that have moved and the Oilers were not involved in it. So
getting Askarov would have been a complete revelation for them if they had opted to use the assets to get, but they didn't want to. And
well, this is from the Flames' perspective, though, just to bring it back home a little bit. This is why I think this is the perfect opportunity for the Flames to go and try to get a couple of top 5 picks. Because if McDavid leaves, the Oilers are dog crap. Repeat, dog crap for years.
Oh yeah, honestly,
haven't the Oilers
if they
been
didn't
dog
have
crap for
McDavid
years?
and Draisaitl, they would have been they would easily be with around 15 points this year. They're they're easily the worst team outside of those two superstars.
And Kevin, if McDavid leaves, I question if Draisaitl's on his way out. Like, I don't know if he wants to stay there.
Yeah, if I'm Draisaitl, I'm like, get me the hell out of here, like the next day.
Yeah, like you are in deep, like they are in deep doggy doo-doo, and they don't have the prospects or the picks to center themselves when McDavid is out. And I'm sorry.
Yeah, they won't be.
So now your top line becomes what? Nugent, Hopkins, Lazar, and Hyman?
Yeah. That inspires fear in everybody.
Like, I think it's fair to say the Oilers have outscored their mistakes the last couple of years. That's how they made it to the finals. They have two good scorers who have scored more than they put in their own net. It's not like the Oilers are winning a lot of 1-0 games. They get scored on a lot. They've just outscored those mistakes. And if you look at it, and that can only go so far. And I mean, we're talking about McDavid. He's turning 30 soon. Like, even when we look at like Sid, we saw production drop there.
And he's figured out his game. But the other thing with the Oilers, I think, last year, if the Kings did not just completely flub up in Game 3, they're out. They are completely out. That is a possible sweep. So I think the Oilers were very fortunate in some ways. Like, they did play very well against Vegas and Dallas, don't get me wrong. But let's not forget, the LA Kings made one of the biggest gaffes in playoff history with that challenge and how they messed up late in Game 3, and they never recovered from it.
Yeah.
So,
like, if Byfeld clears the zone, yeah. And as you said, like, that could have easily been a sweep by LA, and instead, and if it had been a sweep, like, does McDavid resign? No.
Looking at how these affect the Flames, since we're a Flames podcast, I think that the Quinn Hughes move puts Vancouver in fighting with Calgary probably for a bottom 5 spot. I think this is them saying, you know what, we made a move and now we're probably going to take a step back this year. Edmonton, they're already struggling. I don't think this changes Edmonton's trajectory at all. Fair to say, guys?
Oh,
yeah, they'll probably be in that like 6th to 12th range at the end of the season, probably in the playoffs instead of out, but I don't really see it as anything positive or negative for the team. It's just
the focus
giving away assets for nothing.
Yeah, the focus is getting the cup in Edmonton, and I think they have to do it before that McDavid contract expires.
Yeah, I'm now wondering if McDavid is regretting the 2 years, but we'll leave that to our Edmonton Oilers podcasting counterparts to talk about. I do think, though, that, I mean, we see a GM carousel in Edmonton as it is already. I do wonder if this is the beginning of the end of Stan Bowman.
Should be.
Well, they shouldn't have hired him.
He's not a very good general manager.
They should not. They should not have hired him in the first place. It was a terrible hire. And if they win the cup, he's been very fortunate because it was McDavid and Draisaitl that gets them the cup. It's not like Stan Bowman will get the applause, but I'm sorry. And I'm sorry, Stan Bowman should not be in the league. I absolutely not be in the league.
Who's their AHL GM? Because that's probably the next guy to get the nod. I don't even know. We'd have to look it up. But
can you dig up any like former Oilers from years
who's
gone
left?
By?
Messier?
Well, he would be on the broad. Never mind.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, they tried most of those guys. I don't know who's left. Grant Fuhr.
Get Peter Klima out of wherever the heck he is.
Yeah, I don't know. Well, we'll see who they go to next. They're going down the alumni list right now. It probably. But before we move away from, I guess we move away from this week, let's talk a little bit about the Wranglers. We haven't checked in with the Wranglers much this year. Owen Say, one of the two goalies down there, had his first pro shutout on December 9th when the Calgary Flames took on one of their rivals, the Coachella Valley Thunderbirds. That's the Kraken's affiliate. Big shutout for Say. He's actually looking pretty good down in the AHL. I've seen him play a few times. Him and Prosvetov are tending the twine there, and I'm liking what we're seeing out of Owen Say. Guys, without looking it up, who do you think is the number one point getter on the Wranglers this year?
I did look it up, so I won't answer.
Probably either Ferk or Gradine.
It's Martin Ferk, number 1, and Gradine, number 2. Ferk has 25 points. Gradine has 23. Cairns, 22. And Dryden Hunt, who hasn't been there the whole season because he's been up here a lot of times, is right behind them. The number 1 point getter in the AHL, Jacob Peltier. So, Ferk is 9th on that list, and I think 17th is Gridden. So they're looking good. Ferk's a veteran. He should be looking good. I hope that maybe at some point he gets a call if they want a guy to look at, but it's good to see Gridden on that list. And the Wranglers not dominating like they did last year. I mean, they're third in their division. They're not overly, I guess they're not winning hand over fist like they were last year, but they're in a respectable spot right now. And I'm hoping that playing guys down there, as much as fans want to see them here, they're having a good season. And a lot of these guys are getting development time playing top minutes.
And one thing to note, the Grand Rapid Griffins are off to one hell of a hot streak to start the year. They're 21-1-1.
That's kind of where the Wranglers were last year at Christmas time. Right? What was it? They lost like nothing till Christmas last year.
Yeah.
But the lines
And it's interesting that the Abbotsford Canucks, who are the defending champions, are like 6-15-4.
Oh, because they've had nobody. All their players had to go up to Vancouver.
Well, that's it. They kind of got their roster pillaged.
Oh, and they've had a ton. Vancouver's had a ton of injuries, but so is Abbotsford too. To be fair.
So for fans, I took a note of the lines on the December 9th game here for the Wranglers, and fans are kind of wondering who's playing where. The top lines for the Wranglers forward was Stromgren on the left with Kieran's on center and Ferk on the right. Sunayev, Morton, and Gridden was the second line. Basha, Kirkland, and Clark Bishop was the third line, and Parker Bell, Carter King, and Alex Gallant, the fourth line. And then on defense, they had Turner Ottenbreit with Daniel Maramanov as their first pair. Terrible pair. Good at the AHL, but a terrible NHL combo. Nick Sissek and Jeremy Poirier as their second pair, and Grishnikov and Moran as their third pair with Owen Say and net. So for anyone kind of wondering how the roster's being put together, that's where we're at right now. And I've really liked what I've seen from just looking at that roster. We talked about Gridden earlier. We talked about Cairns. I think Sunayev is looking good. I wouldn't bring him up yet. I think he needs to season in the AHL, but I really like what they're seeing out of Sunayev there.
Yeah. Yeah. Again, just good developed. Like everybody's right. They do need elite talent, but they have got the blanket talent is coming for the Flames. I think that you should be encouraged for that.
And I love that they are putting enough veterans in this lineup too. I mean, Ferk is, an old hand. Gallant is an old hand. Like, they're not just leaving it to the young guys. There's enough veterans here to kind of lead the way and help to augment that.
Can I just point out something that was kind of humorous?
Sure.
Dryden Hunt was sent down just before the dad's trip on a paper transaction. And Dryden Hunt called his dad and said, "Come up because we're going on the dad's trip." And then he gets sent down. Can you imagine the heartbreak that you would have if Dryden Hunt's dad couldn't go on that trip? I'm so glad that his Dryden's dad is going on that trip. I mean, nobody's expecting anything from Dryden Hunt, but just as kind of it would have been a heartbreak. I would have felt bad for Dryden Hunt that he brings his dad all the way here for him to go on the trip, and he's not playing on with the plan.
I'd be especially upset if it was a guy from a foreign land or something whose dad came, 20 hours to get here. I think Hunt is from Cranbrook and grew up in Calgary, so I imagine dad didn't have to go too far.
No, but yeah, it's an expense. And yeah. It
is, and I don't know how much the team is paying there, but can you imagine if you were a guy from Sweden and dad comes all the way over and it's, oh, sorry, here's tickets to see the Wranglers.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and I would not. Dryden Hunt, I mean, I've lost track of how many times he comes up and down. He plays the hokey pokey. I'm sure his dad's done this trip with the Flames in the past.
Yeah, I know, but it's still, it's. I think it's a special time for the players and the families as well. So,
yeah,
Yeah, I still find it funny that the moms were banned from Disneyland.
Well, I still remember one of the stories years ago. I forget who it was. I want to say it was Giordano, and it was the first year that they had a team in Vegas. And I think he said he was coming back to the room at like 10 p.m., and his mom just getting her makeup on to go out. and the boys were all going to sleep and the moms are going out. And then the next day they were supposed to go to the practice facility, and like all the moms were hung over getting on the bus going to the practice facility.
Yeah. Did you guys happen to see Drew Doughty's the thing on Hockey Night in Canada with Drew Doughty's mom in the second intermission of a game on their mom's trip?
I didn't.
No. His mom's like, "Hey, good job, you won, but the second period really sucked."
Well, I think it was last year, the year before, and probably last year on the mom's trip because they rotate them out. But I remember like Connor Zari's mom was like yelling at the refs from the mom's suite, and you could see that. And I think it was Peter Hanlon, who used to be in media relations, who had to like grab her and calm her down. But yeah, the dads are on this trip, and they will join the boys. It's nice they get some time off on this one too. Like they played Saturday and then they played Tuesday, so they get some time with their dads. We've seen sometimes when it's just game, and that's it. But I like that I don't know if every team does this, but I like the Flames do this.
I think all teams do it, and I think it's great. I really do. I think it just creates some monotony, breaks the monotony of the season here.
And I think it also really helps the parents to understand what their kids do. I mean, there's a lot that goes into being a hockey player.
Yeah.
And we should say it's the dads and mentors trip. Some guys have their grandpas, some guys have coaches, some guys, coaches from when they were a kid. So it's your male mentor.
Yeah.
And, it's too bad. I mean, I know he's not there anymore and I know why, but it's too bad Guy Gaudreau's not there anymore. Like, he was always the face of these trips, right? I mean, he'd coach the team sometimes. They always cut to him in the dad's box. Like, we don't have the new Guy Gaudreau, that dad's face.
I think unfortunately, until he leaves, it's probably Sam Kadri.
Yeah, and there was some talk, too, about Coleman's dad, because he nicknamed him the Texas Tiger last year, and now every time he scores the Dome, he gets the Tiger head. But Sam Kadri for sure, but I think that, even him, I don't think that all the fans could tell you who he is like they could with Guy Gaudreau.
Yeah, that's true.
Right? I mean, Guy, even when you'd see Guy, I mean, he came on one of the trips after, Johnny's passing. Everybody knew who this guy was. You could show him on the Jumbotron in Calgary, not put a nameplate on it, and people would know who they're cheering for. I think if you show Kadri's dad, that's not necessarily the case.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah.
I was trying to figure out if Dustin Wolf's dad was taller than him or not, but I didn't see a picture of the two of them next to each other.
His dad is slightly taller. I did see a picture.
There you go. So yeah, we've done our
ever so slightly.
We've done our intrepid reporting on this one.
Yes.
Anything else about this week you guys want to talk about before we preview the future?
Nope.
We are not going to be doing a show next week, our usual show that would come out on the week of the 21st. We're going to take the Christmas season off. So we will be back around the 29th of December for everybody. So we will be looking ahead at 5 games. Last week, obviously, we looked at 3 games. Matt thought we would win Buffalo and Detroit, lose LA. I thought we'd win Buffalo and Detroit, lose LA. Matt thought we'd win Buffalo, lose Detroit and LA. And the Flames won Buffalo and LA, of course, lost Detroit. They seem to do whatever it is we don't pick. So neither of us got a point there. We're going to look ahead to 5 games this week. We're going to look ahead to everything before the 29th. So the Flames finish their dad's trip on the 16th, an 8 p.m. start time in Calgary against the San Jose Sharks. Then they're back home for 2 against Seattle Kraken and the Vegas Golden Knights. And I don't think we've ever seen this before, but 2 games Christmas week, both of them against Edmonton. One here, one there. The 23rd is 7 p.m. start time in Edmonton. And then on the 27th, a 8 p.m. start time here in Calgary against the Oilers. Let's let our guest go first. Kevin, what do you think for this?
By the way, that used to happen back in the 80s. They used to do a home and home around Boxing Day between the Flames and the Oilers, but it's been a while. So the San Jose game, that's the one I'm thinking that they play Devin Cooley in that one, especially with the dad's trip. I think I would think they're going to play Devin Cooley in San Jose, although Dustin Wolf is also from that area. But I hope they play Devin Cooley in that one. Let's see. I think they win against San Jose. I think they win against Seattle. Lose against Vegas. And I do think that they will split against the Oilers, but I think they end up winning the Tuesday game before Christmas. I think they're actually going to go. I have them going 3-1, surprisingly.
So you think they lose in Edmonton and win versus Edmonton.
They win in Edmonton and then they lose at home to Calgary.
Okay. Matt, what do you think?
I think that they lose San Jose. I think they beat Seattle. I think they lose Vegas. And I think they beat Edmonton twice.
Hold on, I got to record these. So you think they lose San Jose? You think they beat Seattle?
Yeah.
And then you think what do they do with Vegas?
Lose to Vegas and then beat Edmonton both times.
Interesting. And where do you think we see Cooley?
Probably in either the San Jose or the Seattle game.
I like what Kevin said. It's going to be tough because I think Wolf had a good game against LA, even though he didn't get tested a lot. But I do think that if you're going to put Cooley in, it makes sense to do it against his former franchise in the Sharks, especially with Dad on the trip. I think there's something to be said there. This is an interesting week because outside of Vegas, all these teams are not doing well right now, right? Like I guess, the Sharks are doing well, but they're still not a great team. Seattle's on a downslide. Edmonton's on a downslide, yet I think we all know Calgary's going to find a way to lose in some of these.
Mm-hmm.
Let me see what I think. I'm going to say the Flames win San Jose and both Edmonton games, lose Vegas and Seattle.
Oh, you guys are both predicting a sweep against the Oilers. Wow.
We need something good this year for the Flames.
We need a Christmas present,
Wow.
I think that, honestly, I think that there's some strife in the dressing room from what we've heard about the goaltending change. I think the guys like Skinner. I think it's going to cause this team to go on a bit of a downslide. And I think that, we've even heard Raz talk in the past about this team gets up for the Battle of Alberta. Like, these guys are excited to beat the Oilers. And they got plenty of rest. They got plenty of time in there. It's not like they've got a back-to-back around Christmas. I think the Flames are going to be in a better mental space than the Oilers to beat them there. I think you'll see Cooley in San Jose. I think that's it.
Yeah. I only think one of the games Cooley gets.
I think you put him there, and then you'll put him in one of either Boston or Philly at the end of the month.
So there's 3 more games between the Flames and the Oilers. The last one is February 4th, I'm just bringing this up because we are probably seeing the last 3 games with Rasmus Andersson and a Flames jersey with his most hated team, the Oilers. So I do think they're going to win at least one of them. I think for sure. I don't know if they're going to sweep them, but I do see them winning one of them.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm thinking that this is an easy Christmas schedule. If you got Vegas at home, you got Seattle at home, the Flames are at home, a quick trip up to Edmonton. They should be nice and rested. Then they get through.
Yeah, actually, they're basically home right through to the 5th of January, and then they go on a 5-game road trip, and then they're back for basically right.
And even this current trip to LA, San Jose is not a bad trip.
Yeah, like after that 5-game trip, they have one game where they go to Minnesota, and then they're back for the final 3 before the Olympics. So basically from now till the Olympics, after the Sharks game, other than one little trip, they're here basically till the Olympics.
Yeah, they've got a trip in January where they're going Montreal, Boston, Pittsburgh, Columbus, Chicago. That's a tough trip.
Yeah, but other than that, they're here pretty much the whole time.
Is this the only month the Flames don't have back-to-backs?
I think so.
It is. We've seen so many of those with the compressed schedule. Well, guys, I think that wraps it up then. Kevin, thanks for coming and sharing your insights on the Canucks and the Hughes trade and how it affects the Flames. You talk Flames as well. If people want to hear your insights on the Hughes trade, where can they go?
Shifts and Pucks. Follow us on Twitter, Shifts and Pucks, Facebook.com, Shifts and Pucks, YouTube.com, Shifts and Pucks. Subscribe wherever you get your audio. We're also working our way to get ourselves onto the Hockey Podcast Network. We'll talk Well, I'm trying to we'll figure out the schedule for Christmas as well. To be honest with you, I'm also on an NHL schedule. I have one day off of work then before Christmas. So I'm kind of I'm in a lot of back-to-back. So
hopefully they'll put someone in relief.
We'll
do you have a backup that they can play on the back-to-backs?
Yeah, we'll see.
Okay. Well, this will be it for us until, again, about the 29th. Matt and I are going to take a bit of a Christmas break. So for everyone that's listened through this year, and as we've gone through our 400th episode, thank you so much. We do this for everyone that's listening. And we hope you have a great holiday season. And we will talk to everyone again as we approach the new year.
And as always, go Flames go.
Fireside Chat is hosted by Dan Stevenson, co-hosted by Matt DeBorg. This episode produced and edited by Peter Marino. Fireside Chat is licensed under Creative Commons license. For full license details, visit firesidechat.ca.